So today we're going to be talking a little bit about compositing. Compositing is the process where you bring multiple images together to make one final composite image or one final complete image. The most common way to achieve a composite in today's digital world is with either a green or a blue screen chroma key, where basically a piece of software or a piece of hardware is able to take the color that you choose. It can be blue, it can be green, it can actually be any color of the spectrum, and isolate that color and actually cut a hole in the image wherever that color appears. That hole allows another piece of footage to come through. The idea behind this is to then allow an element that doesn't exist in an environment to be brought in after the fact. Once you've looked up your sun table, you can actually use a tool called an inclinometer that allows you to tell exactly where in space the sun was at any given moment, which is essentially a small compass and a meter that allows you to actually judge the incline in degrees of whatever you're happening to look at. In the case of the sun, you're actually going to use the sighting feature, which allows you to actually judge by looking through the scope exactly where your object happens to be, in this case the sun. For the camera, you're going to use the straight edge on the bottom of the inclinometer on a known surface of the camera or tripod. Basically, you want to pick any flat horizontal surface, whether it be the camera plate, possibly the top of the camera handle if you know you're going to be using that same camera on stage. This way you're able to document in your logbook exactly what angle the camera was shooting from when you shot your plate. When you're on stage, you'll be able to match that angle with the same tool using the same methodology. Is a screen that has wrinkles that you can't get out of it. Those wrinkles actually will read as a slightly lower value. So by crushing your blacks, you may enhance those wrinkles, something you might not want to do. One of your main goals is to try and get your camera out of your way. The cameras do a lot of work for you. There's a lot of circuitry in place to try and enhance the image to give you the best possible picture creatively. Sometimes this creative enhancement can actually be a technical problem for keying. So one of the things we're trying to do is create as vanilla a settings for the camera as possible. We're trying to have the camera do the least amount of processing to the footage before it gets recorded so that we have more room to do our own processing in post. Practicals in the background is coming from a pretty high angle off of her left shoulder, so I'm trying to get an approximation of what it feels like coming from that light. But it's also far enough away that I don't want it to be a tremendous effect, so I'm actually just trying to get a splash of that light as opposed to say something that's pretty hard and direct. I just want to feel just a touch of it. This thicker bar that you're seeing right through the middle is actually the blue of the blue screen. Chad, would you walk to your right just a little bit? You can see that shadow crossing in front of the screen. That actually is the representation of Chad's black. That's why he's down lower on the bar. So you'll notice that as we move across the display, which is actually showing a true representation of the left to right orientation of our actual image, that on the left and right edges we're starting to see a broadening of the band. This is actually because the corners of our screen aren't lit as evenly as the middle. In the corners it goes a little dark. Well, that darkening is represented as an opening of the band, which you're seeing here as we start getting kind of a triangular shape appearing. Next, I'd like to show you a handy tool to have on set. It's called the Ultimat DV. It's a hardware keyer that's very simple to use and gives you a pretty decent job of being able to preview your composite live on set. It allows you to bring any source, whether it be S-video, DV, or composite video, in as a background and a camera feed as a foreground. And then it has a built-in keyer to allow you to do a preview of your key. Now in this case we have Jennifer, this time in her civilian clothes, in front of the green screen. And you can see that we basically have a frame where we're going to have a lot of garbage matting to be done, but all that we care about is that there's plenty of green around our foreground object. Now as I rotate through the settings, you'll see that I can actually completely lose that green background. Now as I go through, this is actually a preview of the mat itself. Internal to the keyer, this is what we're actually, our cookie cutout, if you will. Everything that's black is what the keyer is seeing as from our green screen and cutting out as a transparency. Anything that's white is opaque and is our foreground that will be allowed to remain in the frame. So our background will show where it's black, our foreground remains where it's white. Now looking at our background and foreground in a preview of our composite, we've actually just taken a freeze frame of an output from my laptop that has a preview of a still from our background footage. You could also hook up a deck and actually play